Good evening. The Dolores County Broadcasting Network presents the DCTV 4-H Evening News Program for November, Wednesday, the 7th, I think, of 2018. Our camera people are Robbie and Steve. The sound video engineer, Lynn.
I could have fixed it.
Teleprompter prompter
Starts
Michael.
by the
News
sound.
anchors are Devin and Daniel. With your host. And this is News Director LL Scrabbled him. Now for the news.
Welcome to the DCTV 4-H Kids Evening News Show. Help us keep our kids' news show on the air by becoming a sponsor. You can buy a sponsorship by calling 970-677-419. That's 970-677-419. Now for the news. Hi, I'm Daniel, and here is our first story from the Denver Post. More protection. UN says Earth ozone layer is healing. Earth protective ozone layer is finally healing from damage caused by aerosol sprays and coolants. A new United Nations report, the ozone layer had been thinning since the late 1970s. Scientists raised the alarm, and ozone depleting chemicals were phased out worldwide. As a result, the upper ozone layers above the northern hemisphere should be completely repaired in the 2030s, and the gaping Antarctic ozone hole should disappear in the 2060s, according to a scientific assessment released Monday at a conference in Quito, Ecuador. The southern hemisphere lags a bit, and its ozone layer should be healed by mid-century. It's really good news, said report co-chairman Paul Newman, chief Earth scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. And ozone depleting substances has continued to increase. We would have seen huge effects. We stopped that. High in the atmosphere, ozone shields Earth from ultraviolet rays that cause skin cancer, crop damage, and other problems. Use of man-made chemicals called chlorocarbons, which release chlorine and bromine, began eating away at the ozone in 1987. Countries around the world agreed in the Montreal Protocol to phase out CFCs, and businesses came up with a replacement for the sprays, spray cans, and other uses. At its worst, in the late 1990s, about 10% of the upper ozone layer was depleting, said Newman. Since 2000, it has increased by about 1 to 3% per decade, the report said. This year, the ozone hole over the South Pole peaked at nearly 9.6 million square miles. That's about 16% smaller than the biggest hole recorded, 11.4 million square miles in 2006. The hole reaches its peak in September and October and disappears by late December until the next southern hemisphere spring. Newman said the ozone layer starts at about 6 miles above Earth and stretches for about 25 miles. Ozone is a colorless combination of 3 oxygen atoms. And this story is from the Denver Post. Doctor's visit can be real hurdles for disabled people. Laws meant to prohibit discrimination against the disabled fall short when it comes to visiting the doctor's office, leaving patients with disabilities to navigate a tricky obstacle course that not only leaves them feeling awkward but also jeopardizes their care. Despite laws that require ramps and wider doors for access, many medical offices do not have scales that can accommodate wheelchairs or adjustable exam tables for patients who cannot get up on one. The Affordable Care Act was set to update standards for accessible medical treatment within the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, which is enforced by the Justice Department. By the Trump administration stopped action on this change last year as part of the sweeping effort to roll back regulations across the federal government. The ADA, a 1990 civil rights measure designed to prohibit discrimination against people with disabilities requires public places to be accessible, meaning new buildings and certain commercial establishments must provide ramps and doorways wide enough for a wheelchair, handrails, and elevators. The law applies to only fixed structures, however, and doesn't address furnishings unattached to buildings. At doctor's offices, that means scales, tables, x-ray machines, and other diagnostic equipment aren't legally circumscribed. The result is that movie theaters and laundromats have to be accessible to all people, but important aspects of the medical industry do not. The ACA directed a federal panel, the Architectural and Transport Barriers Compliance Board, also known as the Access Board, to take steps to close the gap by issuing standards for determining what medical equipment could be deemed accessible. Its report was finalized in January 2017, just before President Barack Obama left office. The patients with disabilities report feeling icky, as if doctors and nurses don't want to touch them to examine them, said Morris, based on her research, adding that there's a physiological toll to being treated as an other by the medical system. Dealing with exam tables and scales may be the first step. I think that all of us want to take the absolute best care of our patients. We want to account for patient needs, said Michael Munger, president of the American Academy of Family Physicians. Some medical systems are taking action. The Department of Veterans Affairs has used the U.S. Access Board standards to adopt similar accessibility guidelines in Colorado. Centene, the largest Medicaid insurer nationwide, adopted similar guidelines. The stories from the Durango Herald. Gardner Bennett seek more funding for wildfire suppression. Senator Michael Bennett and Cory Gardner requested more funding to modernize firefighting technology for the U.S. Forest Service in letters sent to Senate committees November 2nd, citing the devastating wildfires in Colorado this past year. The two senators joined the bipartisan effort led by Senators Ron Wyden, Democrat, Oregon, and Mike Crapo, Republican, Idaho, that said there is a need for a modern large air tanker and water scooper fleet, a technology they called in a statement one of the most effective media responses to limit the expansion of wildfires. The call for funding was included in letters to the Senate committees on operations, leadership, and the U.S. Forest Service. The intensity and duration of the past successive fire seasons confirm the reality that the wildfire suppression workload has gone to severity and complexity due to hotter, longer burning seasons and expanding wild and urban interface. The senators wrote in the letters, these factors will only worsen future wildlife disasters, so it is time that Congress and the executive branch proactively upgrade firefighting assets in order to protect the lives and property in communities facing these massive wildfires. Bennett and Gardner said in a joint news release November 2nd that the available aircraft flying the wildfire suppression missions are retired ex-military or ex-civil aircraft that were repurposed for the air tanker operations, and they are outdated and limited in number. The call for funding is a constituted an effort to improve funding for the Forest Service. In March, Bennett and Gardner helped lead an effort to pass a bipartisan funding. This is all the same stuff. Next up is Devin with the story from Durango Herald.
Snow is coming Sunday to Colorado, including San Juan Mountains. Yes, yesterday we discussed this same topic for the last week. is for the coming weekend. Enjoy. A system moving from the northwest is expected to bring 3 to 5 inches of snow to San Juan Mountains from Sunday morning through Monday morning. Matthew Aleska, meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Grand Junction, said northern and central Colorado are favored for snowfall with 5 to 10 inches expected near Crest Butte, but altitude. Aspen and Steamboat Springs, we're still expecting some snow for the San Juan. It's just not going to be as much as the mountains to the north are going to see, Aleska said. Lower elevations in Colorado might see some isolated showers on Sunday night, but Aleska said there's no snow expected in town. The low temperature Sunday night will hit 32 degrees in Cortez and 31 degrees in Durango. The incoming system follows another storm exiting Saturday morning, Aleska said. Lingering snowfall over the San Juan Mountains will clear out by noon on Saturday. He said this coming week should be dry. The next best chance of precipitation will come next weekend, he said. According to the National Weather Service, Cortez, as of November 2nd, has received 8 inches of precipitation in 2018, which is 3.5 inches below normal. Now for dumb laws in Maryland. In Baltimore, it is illegal to throw bales of hay from a second-story window within the city limits. It is illegal to take a lion to the movies. It is a park rule violation to be in a public park with a sleeveless shirt. No person who is a tramp or vagrant shall loiter in any park at any time. It is a violation of city code to sell chicks or ducklings to a minor within 1 week of the Easter holiday in Baltimore City. Though you may split on a city roadway, spitting on a sidewalk is prohibited. You may not curse inside the city limits. In Cumberland, it is illegal to use profane language on a playground. Knocking stones into a public park is prohibited. In Rockville, persons may not swear while on the highway. It is illegal to remove a public building by writing on it. Now with the report with Hannah.
Our current weather data comes from the DCTV weather station located in the beautiful downtown Dove Creek. The current temperature is 52 degrees. The high for today was 55 degrees. The low was 28 degrees. The bubble meter is at 29.98 inches and is steady. Humidity is at 18%. Wind is between 1 and 4 miles per hour from the northwest. Gusts have been up to 17 miles per hour. There were 0.00 of an inch of rain measured today by the DCTV weather station. Moisture for the month is 1/100 of an inch. Moisture accumulation for the year is 7 inches and 3/100. Now for the big map, courtesy of the National Weather Service. Rain mixed with snow is falling in Washington into northeastern Montana. Snow is falling from Montana and Idaho into Utah and northern central Colorado. The rest in the Pacific Northwest is clear. We find snow again in the eastern Dakotas and western Wisconsin. Over there somewhere. Rain begins in Wisconsin where the snow leaves and continues into Maine. Over there. Rain and severe thunderstorms in Texas along the Gulf Coast, then heads into north and in Massachusetts. The same front also brings the rain and thunderstorms and the south tip of Florida. Here is our exclusive DCTV for a 5-day forecast. Thursday, sunny, high 44, low 20. Friday, sunny, high 45, low 23. Saturday, mostly sunny, high 47, low 26. Sunday, mostly sunny, high 42, low 24. And then Monday, sunny, high 48, low 23. Now for a climate change report. CO2, carbon dioxide, is considered a greenhouse gas and is one of the principal causes of climate change. CO2 traps heat in the atmosphere, which causes climate instability. This results in climate change. This results in significant variations worldwide of heat and moisture and hot and cool temperatures, but the general climate trend is that the planet is slowly warming. Therefore, it is important that we report the CO2 weekly change. The following are the CO2 numbers and parts per million. Last week, 406.62. 2 weeks ago, 406. Last year, 404.04. 10 years ago, 383.04. 50 years ago, 321.31. Thank you, Dr. Peter Tanza, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. And Michael McGee of the CO2.Earth Network for providing this information. Remember, you can help keep our Kids News show on air by buying a sponsorship. To buy a sponsorship, just call 970-677-4119. That's 970-677-4119. Thank you. Now back to your news director.
That's the end of today's DCTV 4-H news program. This is News Director LL Scrambled M saying good night and thank you for watching, and inviting you to tune in again next week when our Sad Sack news director will be back.